I'm not going to say this is SchickFox. He may be a piece of trash and leave the stream early while I'm reviewing him at 3,800. I will not say that. But he will be using the new replay system. And 3,800 Junkrat. So let's see what he does. He's in chat, so let's make fun of him. Oh, we got some good volume on this one. Fuck those rails. Also, I do like how I can see everyone's ultimate. Maybe we can better describe and help the team out there. Shtick is a schmuck. Yeah, we can say that. Wait, a replay game? Yep. So he played a game, he didn't record it, but then he booted it up and recorded it after he played it. So I like this. So when we talked about the staircase thing, right, last game, and I was like, you minimize the time they can see it, and if your projectile goes like this, they have a very low time to see it and dodge it. Well, this is kind of the same thing, except he's on a rooftop, and he's shooting it like this. Right? If you shoot up here, people can see the shot coming, but if you shoot down like this, minimizes the amount of time they can see the shot. It's good. Oh, Genji's here. Okay, I'm just gonna say this. At this point, I don't know if you're gonna get shot by this Widow or someone else got killed by the Widow. Oh, the Widow got killed. That's what happened. Like 5 seconds before this, you needed to be in the low ground. That's just Route 66. Too many people hold this for way too long. I don't think your team's gonna be able to defend here properly. Oof, it was close. But your Zen was still back there and he died. Yep, get out of there. Don't even fight her. Worry about the other side of combat. Great! So this is long-range Junkrat. Your team's at a disadvantage. Get the fuck out of here. Maybe you'll get out. I like that trap. Maybe they'll get that Widow. I'm kind of saying that sarcastically, but at the same time, it's actually possible. So this seems like spam, and I know everyone's going to say it's spam, but I like that you're doing this because in your mind, you're using creative visualization to understand that the choke point is right there. And he's understanding that there's a wall right here, but there's a choke point behind it. And he's shooting at that. And he knows that there's the choke point here. If your target is the ground, then you're shooting the ground, and that's a direct hit. Alright? That's not spam. You're shooting exactly where you want to hit. Just because you can't see it doesn't make it spam. The concussive mine's a little questionable. I like to be frugal with my resources at times. But they do have time while they're pushing the payload through the choke point that you can actually buy your 8 seconds. Perfect! Whenever possible, throw a concussive mine through the amp field because it stays at double damage until you detonate it. Meaning there is a one-shot just chilling there now. In fact, I would change my entire play style to not use that for mobility. Got him. Perfect. Yep. No one's gonna hit that concussive mine, so you might as well reuse it. Don't hold on to it too much. That's very good. Some people would try to hold on it for a lot longer, and you did not. I don't think anyone's gonna come through here. I would actually watch your back. Careful, you're crossing big, wide distances, and they got a decent Widow. Oh, that was scary. You took a couple steps a little bit farther than I would like it. With the Widow down, you can take the high ground. That should have been the high ground because of mine. It would have saved you from that a little bit. So when they have a Genji, don't be afraid to trap behind the shield or trap by your supports. He's more likely to dash at you and your supports than anything else. You told me to work on my creative visualization in my first review, like a year and a half ago. Well, yeah! And you're doing it. Look at that, you're listening to me. What SR were you a year and a half ago? Whatever your gain of SR was, I'll take full credit for it. But if you lost SR, not my fault. This is good. Minimizing how much time the Widow can see you. Alright, I would probably drop because the grapple's going to come soon. Did the Widow grapple in front of the Genji ulting? I would actually use this. Your next concussive mine, hide a double damage it somewhere. Oh, didn't get it in time. You could go through the church window and pressure the Widow. There you go. Go for the squishy Widow. You saw her run. Holy shit, I didn't think he was going to hook you through that mess.
Experience tranquility.
Could you have hidden it on the pillar in that corner? The concussive mine? I mean, yeah, possible. I would trap right here on the edge, because a Widow's going to come up here probably. Or a Genji. Understand if you're going to start shooting from somewhere, more than likely the heroes that can flank are going to stop or start looking at you. You need to get something here. Alright, get the fuck out of there. Okay. You're probably gonna die here. That's alright. You got a couple picks, and I think it was enough. Perfect! Alright, I think you did just enough for you to hold that point. So whenever you flank, be really, really careful that, like that first shot you attacked with and you did the ricochet, that kind of told them you were coming. And that's, you know, not the best thing to do. Oh, not bad. This sucks. Yeah. Yep, that retreat path sucks. You started in bronze. Or you were plat when you saw me, but you started in bronze. Okay, you're trying to use ricochet shots. I will say I think you're the first person in tonight's reviews that tried to use ricochet shots to advantage. That was good. Yeah, if you can ever shoot behind the shield, there's a good chance that there's just people hiding behind it.
Cease your resistance.
Okay, that wasn't bad, man. Like, overall, wasn't bad. Obviously, I would do some things differently, and I kind of told you about them. But overall, I mean, I think it was pretty solid play. Are you going for the patented Chro mine up, shoot in the corner? You son of a bitch. Alright, I'm just gonna tell you. Come on! Give me the goddamn angle. Alright, you want to shoot right here. We'll back off this and go around the shield. Okay, this is the more... how you say, I forget that word. It starts with the C. Not confident. Not condensed. I forget that word. Starts with a C. Clever? No. Concise. Bam! Zingo! That's the more concise. Conservative! No! Zingo, you're wrong. Take that bam back. Dan Oceans, you get it back. It's the more conservative move. Sorry, Zingo. I have to retract my bam and give it to Dan Oceans. Good first shot. If you hear a dash and you're near a wall, throw a mine on the ground right beneath you. Right, Genji's gonna stop. Normally he stops on walls, unless he hits the wall at, you know, whatever angle, and you dash it down the whole damn thing. I don't know if anyone uses concise in their everyday conversations. I actually use that word a lot. Just because when you're in the business world, or IT I should say, in the business world, you want to make things concise. Well, you tried, but Nanoblade is a bitch. Yeah, when you write an email, you don't want to make it wordy. You want to make it very concise. So it comes up a lot. Can we tell them to fuck off in a more concise manner? I'm like, yeah, boss. I'll take it down a couple lines. I'll make sure I just say fuck off. I like this. I don't like that. But yeah. I mean, they don't really have any good hit scans to kill your tire. I know there's Hanzo, but he's not the... I mean, he's good at one-shotting the tire, but if you know where he's at, then you know what you can kill. SchickFox, you're heading out of here. Wow, what a jerk. But he told me ahead of time, so he's at least a planned jerk. An acceptable jerk. Yeah, acceptable, planned. Those are both okay. I like that. Go for the squishy target. I like that. Gotta watch out for the fucking Genji. Gotta hate Genji. I hate Genji so damn much. Goddamn alt bots. Oh.
We need to get the payload moving.
That's a retreat. Yep, trap there, perfect. So that's going to be your escape route, and that's where people are going to push if they really want to get to you right now. Fucking Genjis. Man, your team backed up that Reinhardt real nice.
Well, that's a fine. How do you do?
So since they just used Blade not too long ago, in your mind, or concussive mind, okay, I was going to say Tyre's good for taking out Genji's Blade. Or just Genji. Welcome. I would not bother with a hog in that location. So I would keep up the pressure on the shield right now. Ah, you lost another. Okay, that's retreat. You gotta get out of there. I was gonna say keep up the pressure on the shield, and then from there you can kind of, if your team wasn't dying or you know whatnot, it would at least keep the Orisa, force her to use her shield on cooldown.
Primary objective. Move the field.
Oh man! I hear a Genji to our left. Maybe that was your own. No, that's very good kill. I would actually at this point. Okay. So as you get higher and higher SR, you need to understand what options you've taken away from the enemy when you get a kill. When you took out the Genji, alright, that's like their major push stopper. But then when the Hanzo dies, they have nothing in the game to deal with high ground. Outside of a hook, or like just point blank damage. But there's very little things that can contest you directly. I know your team ulted here. That's cool, that's great. But if you made it to the high ground, I think you would have a really high advantage right here. Now at this point, the Genju brothers are back. And they can contest high ground very easily like that. But for a very brief period of time, and that's kind of what you have to start doing at the higher levels, is you get windows of openings, so you have to exploit them while they're open, and then essentially understand that you have to disengage because you don't have the advantage anymore. Okay. Perfect. Perfect. So, what made that tire so perfect? Oh, fucking Hanzo. Ruining everyone's fun. Yep, they defended that. Was the fact that because your team nano boosted someone else, you hit them to where they wanted to retreat to. In martial arts, there's a saying: when shadow, what is it? When form strike form, when shadow, when formless strike shadow. Sorry, I butchered the fuck out of that. When form strike form, when formless strike shadow. And what that means is if someone's just chilling there, fucking hit them. But if you see them moving, basically they're formless, then you shoot them where their shadow's going to be. So the idea is as, I forget what you nano boosted on your team, but whatever you nano boosted was pushing the enemy back. So you don't want to tire this way, right? Because that's the way they're running. You want to tire this way, and that's exactly what you did, and they all ran into it. So, very good on that. It sucks you lost, but hey, that's life. Shtick wants to know, can Chro point out a good time to rotate? A good time to rotate. We're back here. So, I had the Wing Chun dummy out, before, and essentially the same example comes into play again. You have to rotate around something. If everything is kind of formless, you really can't rotate around it because if they're not getting... So, say this is the point of combat and you're flanking them from that. If there's no pressure on them and you flank them, they just do that. Like, it's very minimal effort, they just turn. But when they're getting hit, and they're kind of pressured from this area, and they can't put down this like this shield or whatever it is you're pressuring them from, and then you hit them from the side. Because then they don't have the ability to turn and deal with you. You want to deal with them when they're busy. So if you're flanking, it's fine to move while your team is moving in, but as soon as your team stops, like maybe you can flank a little bit, just get into position, but they need to be attacking while you... There's a form called Bik Da, and it's a Taisukon form. And it has this really long name. Bik Da is the very shortened form for it. But what it translates to is basically to shove someone into a corner and hit them. That's the literal translation of the form. And so that's what flanking is all about. You need to push someone into a corner and then flank them. If you just hit them with a flank, they can easily deal with it. To make it not easy to deal with, make sure your team is engaging. And that's kind of like what my subtle teamwork is. Like, everyone says, oh, you're not in voice chat, how can you have teamwork? Well, 'cause I'm not a fucking idiot. Alright, I see my team attacking, then I can flank. If I'm just flanking all willy-nilly, I'm just going to get killed. They're going to turn towards me, they can allocate resources, that's it. The best I can do is I can flank while my team's trying to push through a very difficult choke point. And if I just take up their time and still die, like if I take up 2 or 3 of their resources, that's great, because when it's offense versus defense, because the defense has the positional advantage, they actually need less pieces. And by less pieces, I mean like each piece is worth more, if you want to think about it that way. So essentially, if the attackers are pushing through a choke point, 1 piece on offense is worth like 2 pieces on defense. So if you take 1 piece away from defense, it hurts them a lot more than it would on offense. So that's why if you're doing offense and you're pushing through a choke point, it's okay to flank. If you take 2 people off the choke point, that's immense. That gives your entire team the opportunity to get through the choke point and just deal with that. Obviously, it's not good even if you do die, because then it's like a 5v6. But at least your team got through the rough spot, and if they can manage to live there... And right now in my head, I think of Go. Essentially, if you've ever seen the game Go, you will attack like into someone's territory, and if you can make life there, that strengthens the rest of your forces, because then reinforcements can come in and they can't kill you. And that's the same deal in Overwatch. If I can go in, I can take resources off the point, die... And usually I'm thinking right now in my head, I'm thinking 2 CP. So I like push the Hanamura choke point. I then set myself up on a flank. They allocate 2 or 3 people to me to kill me. They kill me, but the 5 of my team got inside. And by them getting inside the flank and inside the choke point, it means when I respawn, I can just immediately hook up with them. And we've gotten past, as a group, with some sacrifices, through the choke point. That's one of the very extreme cases of making the best out of bad situation. The best situation is obviously you flank, they allocate resources towards you, you kill one of them, and you're still alive somehow, and you're just dealing with them back there. Then your team can really push forward and take them. But mainly, when you want to flank, and how to understand rotations, is when the team is busy. The other time, they're stuck in a point. The other time is when they're retreating. So they're in the logistics phase, right? Early, when I used to talk about apply a lot, logistics is the time to hit everyone. Anytime you say there's a timing window, that's logistics in my point of theory. So in our last previous example in this game, you guys nano boosted a Reinhardt. He pushed the team forward. The team had to run. They were formless. They had no structure. It is hard for them to deal with you. So what happened? You tired where they were going, and they immediately died. That's the other time to rotate. It's funny because I say like you rotate when they have form, Basically, if they have form and they're pinned, it's a good time to flank. And if they're formless and you're already there and you're attack, that's the attack. Jab. You've talked about rotating to fill the void as enemy team moves forward. This is something, and it's something I've been working on. Could you point out some points where that could have been good? Okay, so when I talk about filling the void, essentially, it has to do when the enemy team is aggressive, not when they're retreating. So if the enemy team is aggressive and they push, here's the enemy team, and they push forward, they essentially have left a void behind them. Right? There's space here. They're filling the space. There is now over here. Now, the space they were taking up is now empty. I consider that a void. Essentially, as they move forward, if you fill that void, it's a very big point of weakness. Again, this kind of has to do with they're formless, but they have to butt up against something. If they're not under any sort of pressure and they can just turn and shoot you, it doesn't really help. Can I point out a time in this game when that could have happened? So, I don't know if this is going to be exactly where I'm thinking. Understand also that what we're talking about right now with the void stuff is actually incredibly high risk.
My ultimate is ready.
So, let's try to go up on the attack. Okay, so this is always what's in my mind. A very good example of this is when you're on the high ground and they're pushing below you. As they push through you, as they push right here, you flank this way. And you actually don't even, you have the high ground, so you can just flank straight like this. But again, make sure they're getting attacked here. Make sure the point of the brunt of their team is getting attacked right here, and that's when you flank. Because all of their supports will be focused here, all of their pieces are kind of stuck in place because of the pressure your team's giving them. That's when you flank out. That's what I would say is a good point about the void stuff. I guess on the last point would be another one where, yes, this is the exact point. So understand the way their team is structured right now is they have a lot of people right here in the choke point, and then they have the Hanzo up top. And this is kind of putting up a defense that's pretty effective, right? It's pretty much right here. You're not really going to get in very easily. You can try to flank on this, but the Hanzo is the high ground, so if you try to go around this at all, he's going to see you, and he has the advantage with long range against Junkrat, so that's going to be very difficult to pull off. But as soon as you saw this death, all of a sudden, there was space up here. Now there's a void. Get on top. Remember, their formation was dependent on this Hanzo holding the high ground and keeping essentially the entire, your left side, their right side of combat safe. It's gone. Now essentially they're just stuck on one single point, and they really can't do much from there. So fill the void where their defense was, and now you can attack from it. That is another example. Grow floor, I've been noticing weird. It's not just FPS drops, but it's been some weird stuff like where it's like just take long, like oddly long loading times, stuff like that. It just overall doesn't feel good. So stuttering, yes, kind of, sort of, but it's more like things just take a long time to load. and I don't like when the game stutters and frame drop and loading starts taking a long time. I'm like, all right, fuck all this. But that's the place if you want to talk about rotating and stuff like that. Any other recommendations from the review? So we didn't get the chance to actually start asking questions. One, you still have to worry about your mechanics, right? That's always a worry. That comes with time, as always, but just understand as you get higher and higher and higher, you do have to tighten that up. But your positioning now, and always, I mean, it kind of always has to do this, but you're starting to have to start moving towards timings. I mean, even at 3,900, I mean, you don't even have to move towards timings in GM, but it definitely helps. But I would say that's what you need to do now. So, like this Hanzo, when he died, understand that now you have a window that you can take advantage of. Start counting cooldowns. You heard a Widow hooked straight up, and then she fell down. She didn't take the high ground. You got like 10 seconds on the high ground to do something, and then get the fuck out. I think that's what you probably need to move towards. More than you said. Sorry, don't worry. I was just joking. I think timings is his next point of attack. At the same time, you don't really need that right now. Like just mastering the fundamentals is still key. So my heavy rotation and heavy movement based style is to prod and to poke and to find weakness and then attack it. If it's not bad to move slower and use your team just to be more like being stuck behind the shield and just be more stable that way. Mobility, the more I'm into my logistics, the riskier it is. But by doing this, I'm always poking and prodding for weakness and trying to take advantage of timings. That is how I got to where I'm at. Is there a way to practice timings? It is actually the one thing that I've had multiple teachers tell me, like in training. No. There is no way to practice timing. There's no way to teach it. You have to just practice. And the better your fundamentals are, and this is kind of the whole Zen thing that we talked about, is the less you have to worry about up here, your logistics, your positioning, your mechanical skill, the more time you can have the focus on this other stuff. And it's that other stuff that basically timings takes advantage of. And that's why it comes, big pun, in time. You have to not worry about anything else, and you'll start figuring out timings because you don't have to worry about everything else. Right now, you're too worried about all this stuff because you're just at that skill up. That's about it. I would imagine memorize every cooldown in the game. Yes, but it's not just the literal idea of time, like 8-second cooldowns. Actually, in Overwatch, if you just memorize 8-second cooldowns, you're good. That'll teach you pretty much every cooldown in the game. But to find timings and when people are weak and when people aren't paying attention, the only way to do that is to get better at everything else, so that the only thing you can focus on at some points is it sucks to say this, but it's the truth. You can't really talk. You can't talk about it. You can't teach it. But you can control timing in some situations by baiting abilities. Yes, you can do that, and I get it when I say timing, you think of seconds. And yes, there is this concept of the literal word time. But understand, when I mean timings, I'm not talking about literal seconds. I'm just talking about, like, yes, abilities may be down, but I'm talking about, like, when you're attacking, and you guys have seen it whenever I attack, and, like, no one really notices I'm there, or I have like a brief window of 2 seconds to kill someone, and it's not like cooldowns are up, it's not like cooldowns are down, it's not like I saw every cooldown that happened in the game. It's just like, oh, I know because one person died that their team for the next second and a half is going to be pushing in a little harder because our tank died. Well, that means if I come right here for a second and a half, I have a chance to kill someone. If I don't, I back out immediately. And the problem is that it's really abstract to talk about, and it's really hard to teach and nail down. You said timing isn't the timing of people's choice to attack or retreat. Yes, that Zingo. That's a good way to think of it. Yes. But a good start to understanding timings, yes, is memorizing cooldowns. Whenever a Widow hooks in my games, I'm counting down an 8-second timer in my head. Always. It's just good to know when things are going to happen. Because usually after 1 second, after a cooldown comes up, that's when like a Widow's going to try another grapple shot. Or soldiers usually don't do Helix on cooldown. What's something else that comes on cooldown that people use right away? Oh, Fire Strike with Reinhardt. Zarya Bubbles when there's combat going on, if you can count those cooldowns, like that happens on Q usually. Stuff like that. Sonic Arrow, kinda, that happens on cooldown, but that at least has a sound cue and you know there's a duration to it. So it's a lot more predictable. What else? What in this video did I see that he needs to work on? The problem is his timings is very advanced. I guess you can start working on it now, but timings is essentially what the professionals are working on as well. So that's endgame shit. And by endgame I mean like skill wise. It's the top. It's the tippy top. Positioning. How is your high ground control? Let's see here. 0.1 defense was late coming down. So that has to do with just like the next. Just understand what the next point of combat is and preparing for that. Gonna get stopped there. Got you the second point. Second point, you actually guys put up a good defense. You're still working on the creative visualization. Keep that coming. That's always going to be there. Second point defense was good. My personal thing on the second point defense is I would have dominated the high ground a lot more because all it had was the Widow. And as soon as you heard the Widow hook, if she was on the high ground, you can just shell the low ground from the high ground. You know, barring you're not within her, you know, not showing your head to her. But yeah, you really didn't deal with the high ground at all in the second point, and I get that the Widow has a lot of pressure, but there are timings when the Widow is not on the high ground, and you can use that to your advantage. But you did flank a lot through Bank to get to, and that was good. Your third point defense was okay. Was it okay? No, I think you guys just got rolled on the third point. Yeah, not much to talk about there. Attacking. Conservative, I like it. You didn't use the high ground too much on the second point. Third point, you were taking the high ground, you were trying to with your team, but you guys just couldn't get anything going there. That's a real tough one, especially when they got a good Hanzo. Overall, it was solid play. The timings and rotations. The thing is you can also do the exact opposite that I do and just sit with your team and just shell down the front line. That's always an option. And with Hanzo and Widow becoming more and more popular, that's probably going to become more and more of an option. Yeah, I think that's it. He needs to submit another review for me to get a really good answer, but in this review, I think you did fairly good. There were just some the things that I corrected during the video. Overall, I mean, the big thing was timings, I believe, or information on what to do when that was happening, like when the doors are open, when the doors are closed. Will shutting down the front line get you the GM? I think so. I think it will. If you just practice being with your team, you use concussive mines either to burst down the Zarya's bubble or to just keep flankers away from you. I think if you just stayed on the front line with your Reinhardt or your Orisa, I think you could get the GM with that. Yeah, I mean, as long as you're shelling where they're going to, you're taking away their defenses and you're making like your team's life just super easy. I see that working, the GM. Would that be instead of the previously mentioned tactics? Yep. Or addition to. You can use both, and that's the problem. You can do both. It's situational. Right? If they're running Hanzo Widow and you can't flank at all because you just get shot to death, yeah, chill behind the shield. Maybe you're chilling behind the shield so well that they're just like, all right, the Hanzo pick isn't working, and they change to something else, and then you can start flanking. So it's in addition to. So I briefly brought out the Wing Chun dummy too. When I brought out the Wing Chun dummy, basically because the dummy has such strong structure, when I hit it, my technique only has so much it can do, right? Because I'm running into someone stronger and more stable than me. So my Tan Sao, basically just this hand position, that's what it's called. It can only do so much, and when I do a Jut Sao, a pulling hand, like it can only do so much with the solid structure. But the thing is there's 3 versions of the dummy. Like there's something even more sturdy than that dummy. There's the wooden dummy that you see there, and then there's the open air dummy. Essentially, with the open air dummy is that my techniques now have the full range of motion because I'm not actually going up against that strength. Right? So instead of Jet Sao looking just like this, where I just pull them a little bit because the dummy is very strong, I can actually pull all the way back here, and I do the full expression of it. Now, does that not have combat application? Maybe, yes. Who knows? Maybe no. But the idea is that there's a simple technique, and now because I'm going up against a different type of resistance, I can still do the same technique, but I view full expression of it, and that just helps me understand the technique to a greater degree. So the whole thing is like, oh, do I want to only flank? Do I only want to play behind the shield? The truth is you need to know both. So that you can do both at will. Understand that there are different situations and they call for different techniques. So the more you can understand about it in the more situations, the better. That's all there is to it. It becomes more about learning and training so that you can do the right thing at the right time. Can't play the enemy's game, so shield break is probably the easiest way to change the nature of the game if they're running double sniper. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, when they're running double sniper, you're not going to chase these fucking 2 snipers around. You're not going to flank them. They got too much cover, and they got too much space for you to go out of cover for to get to them. So what you're going to have to do is deal not with them, which means deal with the rest of the team. It's like when there's a very good Pharah Mercy. The best way to kind of deal with them is to not deal with them. If you start taking down their shields and you win that fight and you start doing damage to their main force and the main force has to back up, all of a sudden, so the Pharah Mercy's here and the main force is here. All of a sudden, you start winning this battle because you're ignoring them. All of a sudden, their main force, gets pushed back this way. Now the Mercy and Pharah are technically out of position and get focused down by your team. So that's a different way of looking at it. Same thing with the snipers. If the snipers are way back here doing, God knows what, and as long as your team isn't getting picked apart, and you start pushing their team back, all of a sudden, these snipers are suddenly within reach. right? If you got a Hog or Orisa, all of a sudden when you first started fighting, you weren't going to get a hook off on these snipers. But as you kept on winning the shield battle and pushing them back around the corner, now your Hog can reach with his hook, or Halt can reach, stuff like that. You get more options available to you. Don't shoot Pharah? Yeah. But then, like I said, you can go the complete opposite. You can do what I do. Double mine up at a Pharah and try to kill her. Sometimes hitting a Pharah once, and maybe your Ana's also looking at her, and you hit them at the same time, and you kill her instantly. It's happened to me in games before. Back when Ana didn't she used to do 80 damage? Yeah, she used to do 80 damage, and Junkrat did 120. And it was really nice if I shot someone once, and she would shoot someone once, and we'd instantly kill them. That was taken away for a bit, but now with Junkrat doing 130 and her doing 70, you can start doing that again. It's a very unnoticed synergy in the game. But yeah, things can happen. And if you start landing your shots, just things open up. Even a long distance shot on a sniper will cause them to retreat, which will change their patterns. Same thing with a shot on a Pharah or on a Mercy, they may start retreating and they have to go back to cover, which buys your team more time. But like if you had a Widow or a Hanzo once, they have to back up. Let's say if it's a Hanzo specifically. Hanzo's putting a good deal of pressure on your team. Specifically against shields. If all of a sudden I hit the Hanzo before, like right as the Storm Arrow was going up, meaning he has to retreat and come back and then use Storm Arrow because he had a heal. All of a sudden, I bought my team like 3 seconds of timing, and maybe they use that 3 seconds of timing to push the main force of them back. Like we have a 2-second advantage on their Orisa shield because ours is up and theirs is down, and we can kill a person. Or once the shield goes down, we can get a hook. Stuff like that. There's just weird things that open when you start landing your shots, and like you can't always depend on it, but it's just something that will fall out, and it's something you have to take advantage of during that very brief period of time. But yeah, whenever you think of Pharah Mercy flank, whenever you think about Pharah Mercy in the sky, treat it as a separate flank, just conceptually.